Well, good morning again, everyone. I hate to break up a good conversation. Just out of respect for everyone's time, we want to go ahead and get started for our second forum of the day. This is our last one today. Just a reminder, we've got 3 more tomorrow in the Minnesota House race, so please feel free to come back tomorrow. Tell your friends. We've got 3 good races tomorrow to talk about as well. Again, my name is Dan Fanning. I serve as the Vice President of Duluth Area Chamber of Commerce. I'm joined by our partner, Chuck Frederick, from the Duluth News Tribune, and a number of our colleagues from the Duluth Chamber and the News Tribune are here as well. So thank you for being here. Thank you to the audience. Thank you for being here on a Monday morning. Again, as you walked in, you've received a civility project handout. I know you all know this. I know this won't be an issue, but we, of course, we work closely with our partners at Duluth Superior Community Foundation, and we respectfully ask for you to allow us to ask the candidates the questions. No cheering or jeering, if at all possible, please. All candidates will have the same amount of time that Chuck will talk about. No candidates have the questions in advance. A lot of our questions are not meant to be gotcha questions. This is not meant to be a contentious debate. This is really an opportunity for candidates to talk about their issues, why they're running, their priorities, things like that. So for that reason, just again, if you could just keep your applause till the end, all candidates will have the same amount of time. Because I've worked with a candidate in the past, I'm going to recuse myself from this one particularly, but you are in capable hands with our friend Chuck, who is also celebrating a birthday today, so please join me in saying happy birthday to Chuck.
Happy birthday.
But with that said, Chuck, it's all yours.
Thanks, Dan. Welcome Gunnar Johnson and Sean Reed, our candidates for the 6th Judicial District judge position here in Duluth at the Duluth Courthouse. Thanks to everyone who's here in the audience and those who will be watching online when we get this posted at DuluthNewsTribune.com. Both of the candidates, I want to introduce you to Kathy Burnt in the front there. She was about to sip coffee, then didn't, but she is our timekeeper, so she'll hold up signs letting you know how much time you have. We do have timed responses. We're going to be offering opportunities for rebuttals, but this is such a nonpartisan, certainly not partisan race. I'm not sure if rebuttals is the right word. I'll just try to offer you opportunity. If you want to add a little bit more after your opponent has spoken, we can do that. Answers are limited otherwise to 1 minute, responses to another minute. Opening statements will be 1 minute. Just a reminder to everyone that these candidate forums do help to inform the News Tribune's endorsements. Our endorsements are never intended to tell people who to vote for, but to help to try to lead a public conversation about something as important as who represent us and also who sits on the bench in our courthouses in this instance. So with that, we will begin with opening remarks. We flipped a coin, and Gunnar Johnson, you came up heads, so you will go first. 1 minute, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want this position.
Good morning. My name is Gunnar Johnson, and as we talked about, I'm running for the judge in the 6th Judicial District, which is a large district that encompasses St. Louis County, Carleton County, Lake County, and Cook County. This is an important position in our community, and I'm running for this position because I have a great value of public service that has really driven my legal career, and I see this as a nice opportunity to serve our community as a judge, to bring my 30 years of legal experience to our local bench. I've been in private practice with the Minnesota Attorney General's office, as the city attorney, and even with the Department of Justice. I have worked extensively throughout the entire district. I grew up and went to college at UMD and law school at the American University in Washington, D.C. And I ask for your vote as we move forward in selecting a judge for our district. Thank you.
Thanks, Gunnar. Sean Reed.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sean Reed. I'm seeking the position of District Court Judge for the 6th Judicial District. Before I tell you a little bit about me, I want to thank the Duluth News Tribune and the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event. I want to thank Chuck as being our moderator here today. I also want to thank the Duluth News Tribune for endorsing me as a judicial candidate in the primary, and my fellow attorneys who recently voted for me in the bar plebiscite in the 11th District and the Range Bar Association, which allowed me to take nearly 69% of the vote. And that's been an honor of a lifetime to have that endorsement and the support of my fellow attorneys. Now, this is the job interview phase of this election. And as with any job interview, it's time for the voters to learn about our specific experience and learn about what actually qualifies us to be a judge. Now, I'm the candidate that has significant and actual courtroom experience. I know criminal law. I'm both a prosecuting attorney and a criminal defense attorney. I know family law, I know civil law. I've tried countless civil and jury trials, and I see my time is up already. So I look forward to talking about my qualifications as we move forward here today. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll allow a little extra time at the very end for your closing remarks so you can kind of sum up things. Sean Reed, the first question, we'll go to you first. In a community like Duluth, especially considering our size, we're not a real big city, but we're also hardly a rural area. How do you view the role of judge in a place like this?
Well, I think the role of judge obviously plays an important part in the courthouse, obviously, but I think it also extends beyond the walls of the courtroom. And I say that because a judge, when they're presiding over the court, interacts with everyone in the community, interacts with people that work there, interacts more importantly with people that are appearing within the court. And judges have to, when they're working or appearing with people or presiding over matters, they have to treat people with respect and dignity, and that obviously extends out into the community. So it's a bigger role. And you'll see judges taking part in like specialty courts, for example. And judges have a large impact on people's lives and ultimately on the community itself. So it's important that we have the right person to fill this job. We need someone that's got the experience, the right traits, and the right temperament. And I'm that person. Thank you.
Thank you. Gunnar Johnson, on the role of judge in a city like Duluth.
Good morning, Chuck. Thank you. So we have about 13 judges in this district. And the judge, their role is to be part of our broader legal justice system in our community. And so the judges deal with civil matters, a wide range of civil matters that come before the court, whether they're family law matters or contract disputes, and with criminal matters, and the whole range of criminal matters, ranging from misdemeanors up to things like murder trials. And what we're really seeking in the court system is justice and fairness. And I've worked as a hearing officer for the HRA and held numerous cases dealing with people trying to seek justice. And we deal with many different issues like mental health, addiction, poverty. And as a judge, it's important that we hear both sides and that we have a decision that the people can understand as they move forward with their cases. Thank you.
Sean Reed, anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I'll just add that I believe in our district we have 16 judges, not 13. And every single one of them, they do play a very important role. Mr. Johnson's mentioned that they preside over both civil cases and criminal cases. And the most important thing for us to understand is that judges make the decisions that impact people's lives. Judicial decisions have real-life consequences, and that's why this election is so vitally important.
Thank you both very much. Considering your career and your experiences, which experiences do you feel translate well and would make you a good judge? Gunnar Johnson, we'll start with you.
Well, I've been practicing law for 30 years, and I've had a lot of experiences over the years. I started as a private practice attorney in Duluth, working for the Claret and Butler law firm, and handled matters up in Grand Marais, tax court litigation, shareholders litigation, insurance and arson cases and litigation, represented many local governmental entities like the city of Proctor and townships. Then I went on to the Attorney General's office up on the Iron Range and worked throughout the Iron Range, mostly on economic development projects, but also representing a lot of different state agencies in litigation. I handled criminal appeals for the state of Minnesota. So and I could go on and on, my time's gonna run out here, but it's been a very broad experience, and I want to bring that 30 years of experience to our local bench to help resolve our local issues. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, we can give you another 30 seconds after Sean Reed has responded. Go ahead, Sean.
Thank you. Well, I think my experience, what I bring to the bench would be my significant actual courtroom experience. I've been a trial attorney for 27 years, and during those 27 years, I've spent nearly every single day in the courtroom. Like I said at the beginning, I do criminal law. I'm both a prosecuting attorney and criminal defense attorney. I know civil law. I do family law. And these are the types of cases that judges hear every single day. I've long since stopped counting jury trials and court trials that I've done. I've done countless of them. I had to have my staff, my campaign staff, go into the Minnesota court website to try to get us some metrics so we can explain the experience. And the registers of action associated with my name for my 27 years is 11,358. We did the same for Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson's register of actions for his 30 years is 91. So I bring that significant experience to the courtroom.
Gunner?
Yes, thank you. Well, I mean, if we're comparing numbers, I guess, as the city attorney for Duluth, which I was for 12 years, we handled about 10,000 criminal matters each year. And so I guess it's just a question of how you want to count it, but I have very broad experience working with many different entities over the years, and I think that experience is important as we try to resolve the legal issues for our community. And you know, I can drive throughout this entire 6th Judicial District and look at projects and disputes that I've worked on over the years, and that is very fulfilling, and I hope to bring that to the bench here in November. Thank you.
Mr. Frederick, if I may just have a
Yep.
quick rebuttal.
Yeah, Sean Reed, fine.
Thank you, Mr. Frederick. And again, I do recognize that Mr. Johnson has been city attorney for the city of Duluth, and he's city attorney for the city of Hermantown as well. And I mean no disrespect about pointing that out. He's had a different career trajectory than me. But as a city attorney, you don't spend your time in the courtroom. I do. And in order to do this job, you need to immerse yourself in the courtroom. You need to watch the judges. You need to interact with everybody in order to be prepared. Thank you for that additional time.
Good, thank you. Our next question, I'm asking each of you to think a little bit about the times you've appeared before judges. I'm curious, what attributes or skills stand out to you as most effective, and what traits would you hope to emulate? And if you want to drop names, that's fine too, but Sean Reed, we'll start with you.
All right, this sounds like almost the mentorship question, so I'll take it from that perspective. First of all, I can name several judges that I've appeared before that really stand out. I'm going to limit my answer to people that are no longer on the bench. I think that's appropriate. And one person I think that stands out head and shoulders above others is former Judge Sean Florkey. And the reason I point him out is he had a mean or a manner about him, a good judicial temperament, where you knew you were welcomed into his courtroom. He dealt with people in such a manner that if people were lost or if they were scared, he helped them through that. But he also wasn't afraid to drop the hammer, as they may say. So the traits that I think you need to have here, you need to have patience, you need to have empathy, you need to have humility. Patience and empathy are so important because when people are appearing before you as a judge, they're often having their worst day. And you need to recognize that. You need to have humility because a judge's job is not about him or her. It's about the people that appear before them. Thank you.
Gunner Johnson, on the attributes and skills that you've noticed that you'd like to emulate.
Yeah, thank you. Going to court can be very stressful. There are a lot of pieces moving, and it's a very dynamic situation. It's an adversarial situation. I have worked with many judges over the years, whether I was thinking back to Supreme Court Judge Yetka, used to work with him on some mediation matters, but I've worked with Judge Munger, and anyway, a judge needs to be organized, needs to be prepared, and needs to be ready to listen to both parties and make a decision that works within the facts and the law of the case. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional thoughts, Sean Reed?
No, Chuck, thank you.
Good. Gunner, you're good? Moving on. Many of the people who come before you as judge will be from backgrounds and life experiences far different from your own. How will you effectively be able to communicate with everyone who comes before you and everyone in your courtroom? Gunnar Johnson, we'll start with you.
Yeah, this is a real issue as we work through the court system. The pro se litigation, where people represent themselves, has boomed because it's difficult for people to afford an attorney, or there just aren't enough attorneys to represent people in our community or throughout the state, especially in rural areas. As I've worked as a hearing officer for the HRA, it's primarily people that are pro se represented. It's primarily people that have mental health issues. They are struggling with addiction. They are struggling with poverty, and those issues can complicate and make it difficult to administer justice in a case. What's important is to listen to every person, to their particular background and where they come from, and then apply their issues to the rules before you. And in the HRA matters, it's the federal rules on housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean?
Well, I think the question really goes to how you're going to communicate with everyone that appears before you. And so I'm going to kind of harken back to the last question, my last answer, and really what it comes down to is you really have to develop and demonstrate patience, and you have to demonstrate empathy when you're talking to people. You have to have them, let them have the chance to communicate with you, and how you treat people really matters. We have to treat people with respect and dignity without regard to their background or circumstances. And I firmly believe that if a judge does that, we can achieve some sort of justice. Not everybody can win, but if you appear before a judge and you really feel that that person heard you, then that might be justice. I've walked out of courtrooms before where I've heard people have time taken where a judge actually talks to them after the case, asks about them, and people walked out the courtroom saying, I've never had a judge talk to me like that before. And that's really touched me, and that's something that I'm going to try to keep in mind. Thank you.
Sure. Gunnar, any other thoughts on effectively communicating with everyone in your courtroom?
Yes. The courtroom is one where people need to understand what the process is and what is being discussed at the moment. And so it's important to hear people, but it's also important for them to understand where they are in the legal process and what it is that we're looking on in this particular hearing.
Good. Thank you. Sean, any final or good?
Nothing further, Chuck. Thank you.
So much. Then the next question, Sean, you'll answer first. How do you think, or how do you hope those who've worked with you and who you've supervised, how would you like them to be able to describe your leadership style? How would your style make you effective as a judge? Sean?
All right, I'm gonna go back to when I first returned to this area after law school. Former Chief Defender Fred Friedman pulled me aside and he said, Sean, I want you to remember, you're no longer in the big city anymore. When you're here in this legal community, we treat everybody with respect and dignity. Now, the first thing I reacted to that, I'm like, well, what does Fred know about me that he's telling me this? And I quickly got past that, and I thought, that's a real good guidepost. And I've carried that with me during my entire legal career. So everybody that I encounter, whether it's judges, whether it's other attorneys, whether it's pro se litigants in the courtroom, I treat them with respect and dignity. And I sincerely believe that if you're to ask any of those people, that's what they're going to tell you. They're going to tell you that I treated them fairly, I respected them. And with respect to lawyers, we do battle in the courtroom. But the nice thing about this area, once we get done doing battle, we shake hands and we do treat each other with respect. So I'd like to think that that's what people would recall me as being, and that's my leadership style.
Good. Thank you. Gunnar, the question is about leadership style.
Yeah. I have a long history of leadership, and I think at the city attorney's office, it's a good one to talk about. I had 16 people in my office that I managed and supervised. We handled many different contentious and difficult legal matters for the city of Duluth, ranging from working with the city council and getting between the city council and administration as they work through issues, litigation, and in and in claims and all types of matters like that. I have a high standard for leadership. I expect a lot out of myself and a lot out of others. Many of the people that I have led have gone on to become judges in our area. Teresa Neal is a person I hired as our downtown nuisance and blight prosecutor. Steve Hankey was my chief deputy. And Kate Baker, who works in the legal system, was also one of my attorneys. Thank you.
Good. And any other thoughts on leadership and how you would lead your courtroom, Sean?
No, thank you, Chuck.
All right. Gunnar?
I probably won't rebut myself, so thank you, Chuck.
Moving along then, thank you both very much. Judges, as you both know, often work under very tight time constraints. How can you balance, or how would you balance quality and timeliness in your work? It's a question I think any of us could ask in our professions, but specifically as a judge. Gunnar Johnson, we'll start with you.
Chuck, being a lawyer is a difficult job, and that is, a lot of it is exactly what you're talking about. Quality and timeliness. We deal with time requirements on every matter, every day, day after day. I've been doing that for 30 years, and you learn to work in that type of situation where you have matters that you have to get done, and then when those are finished, there's going to be more and more. And so as a judge, I have developed, I'm well organized. I try to move slowly and make decisions with thought, but then when I make them, we move forward, and I'm very timely at getting my decisions taken care of within the time frame we have. And I talked earlier about the HRA matters. I have a week to issue decisions in that case, and I have always done that with that type of work. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean Reed?
Thank you, Chuck. Yeah, so the issue of timeliness and quality is definitely an issue in the courtroom. Now, typically judges are rotating through a number of calendars, criminal, civil, miscellaneous, and when they're hearing cases, particularly in the civil realm, if there's a motion that's brought before them, typically under our rules you have 90 days to issue a decision. If you're trying cases, you're in the courtroom the whole time. So being an attorney, running my own law firm in practice for a number of years has really prepared me for doing the work. Likewise, being in the courtroom every day also prepares you, because you know how important it is to get those decisions out. There's nothing worse than waiting and waiting and waiting to know what the court's going to do. So it's so vitally important that you have a judge that's experienced and is ready to move these cases along in a timely manner so people aren't waiting, because justice delayed is justice denied. Thank you.
Thank you both very much. I think if you feel like you want a little bit more time with any of the questions, maybe just give me a little wave or a nod or something, and otherwise we'll just keep moving ahead. Our next question, the Code of Judicial Conduct limits how judges can respond to criticism. How would you deal with barbs from government officials, from us in the press, from the public, or from others? Gunnar Johnson, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so the rules will be different when one of us becomes a judge, and so there will be barbs. You're going to make, as a judge, you make decisions. And decisions in an adversarial situation where there's two sides that feel very strongly about their different positions. And so those decisions are going to be scrutinized, criticized, and there is going to be pushback. I'll tell you how I am, that I will make those decisions, and I will stick with my decisions, and I will be confident in myself as to the decisions I've made, and will move forward to the next case, to the next set of defendants or plaintiffs, and am not going to get rocked by any sort of criticism, whether it comes from the press or from the people that I hear. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean?
Thank you, Chuck. So the question is the barbs that are ultimately going to come, do you respond or not as a judge? And the simple answer is no. You do not respond, because as I said earlier, this job is not about us as individuals. It's about the people and the cases that appear before us. If we are responding to the press, now we're making that case about myself, or if Mr. Johnson goes, it's about him. So we can't respond, we should not respond, because the work of the judge is not about the judge himself. It's the cases. So the answer to your question is I wouldn't respond.
Good. Thank you both. Sean, we'll start with you first on this one. What inefficiencies and or shortcomings have you maybe noticed in our courts that you would hope to address or that you feel need addressing?
Okay, there's a few of them that come to mind immediately. The first one that I'll address is the public defender system, the qualification levels in which a person can qualify. It's based off of the federal poverty guidelines, which is extremely low. And there are a lot of people that don't qualify because they simply make too much money. And so there's a lot of working poor. There's a lot of people out there that are living paycheck to paycheck. And if you don't qualify for the public defender system, then you really have two choices. You go represent yourself, or you go try to find an attorney to represent you. And with all due respect to my profession, we're not cheap. Same thing could be said with respect to civil cases. People have a hard time finding attorneys to represent them. That's why there's movements like the Civil Gideon Project. And one other thing I'd like to point out too is just timeliness. Cases need to move along at a more quick pace, because again, I've mentioned this before, justice delayed is justice denied, and we have to do a better job moving our cases forward in the court system. Thank you.
Thank you. Gunnar?
Yeah, this is an excellent question, because when I was city attorney, I worked with the court system. There's a hearings that people have to attend to when they have a criminal matter. And so what happens is people would go to court and they would sit there and they would wait for their case to be called. It could be hours, 2-3 hours. And that's really hard on people that have to appear before the court. They have childcare. They have to get away from their job. They have parking issues. And so the waiting almost becomes more difficult than the court appearance. And so what we talked about with the court system is, listen, I go to Cost Cutters to get my hair cut, and they have a way that you can call in and get on a list, and so when you show up to get your hair cut, you're first in line. And the court needs to figure out ways to treat our customers, which are the people that use that, to have that same efficiency that they have at Cost Cutters. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we all hear about accusations of liberal activist judges, or the Supreme Court has gotten too conservative. I want to ask each of you, how would you as a judge approach a justice system that has become increasingly politicized, maybe unfairly so, and polarized? Sean Reed, we'll start with you.
Well, thank you for that, Chuck. And I agree, the judicial system has to remain nonpartisan. It's so vitally important that we have the community has faith in the judicial system. That's why we are nonpartisan. To draw a contrast between Minnesota and a political judicial state, we can only look across the bridge to Wisconsin. Wisconsin last year, for their Supreme Court election, they spent nearly $50 million at that race. And we can't have that, because once politics gets into the judicial branch, we lose the faith of the community. And you already know that right now by listening to people talking about what's happening at the Supreme Court level at our nation. We need to take politics out of our decisions. We need to have judges be responsible for the decisions. And I sincerely hope that something happens at that Supreme Court level soon.
Thank you very much. Gunnar Johnson.
Yeah, this is an excellent question, because this is something I have encountered as I've campaigned for this office up on the range, down in Carleton County. People are always asking, are you going to follow the Supreme Court? Are you going to be a hard judge. Are you going to come after these people? And my answer is, I will follow the rules that I am supposed to follow. This is a trial court. This is a state-level position. If the Supreme Court has a ruling, whether I personally agree with it or not, I will follow that ruling. I will follow the laws of the state of Minnesota as put forth by our legislature and our governor. I will follow the laws of the United States. It is not the job of the judge to make up their own laws. It's the law, it's the job, I should drink more water here, but it's the job of the judge to listen to both sides and apply the law that is there to the case. Thank you.
Thank you both. Not seeing any nods or waves, I'll move to our final question before we get to our closing remarks. A truly competitive judicial race is a rarity, of course, such as this one. Why are you the best choice for voters on Election Day on November 5th? Gunnar Johnson, we'll start with you.
You are correct. In my experience, we had Judge Munger got his position probably about 25 years ago. I was working with him at the Claret and Butler Law Firm at that time. And then Mike Kuzo was elected to the bench in a similar way, probably about 13 years ago. Why am I the best person for the position? It's a good question. You have two good attorneys before you. I think I bring a very diverse and broad level of experience working throughout this entire district, whether it's trying cases in Grand Marais, working with the City Council in Two Harbors, representing the fire department down in Cloquet, or working with townships throughout St. Louis County on road matters, contract matters, all the things that impact our lives and that come to the court beyond just misdemeanor criminal matters. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean Reed.
Thank you. Why am I the best choice? Well, first of all, let me just note that this is a very important election because judges make decisions that impact you on a personal level. In fact, I think you should turn the ballot over first on November 5th and find us at the bottom beneath the Soil and Water District and vote for judge race first. Mr. Johnson's right. This is a rare opportunity. It was 1998 when Judge Munger was elected. It was 2010 when Judge Kuzo got elected. Now, I believe I'm the best choice because I do have the extensive courtroom experience. I'm in courts every day. I practice in criminal law. I'm the prosecuting attorney. I'm a criminal defense attorney. I work with family law cases. I handle high conflict custody cases. I know civil law. I have tried many, many jury trials in both criminal cases and civil cases. I've tried bench trials. It's that kind of experience that you need, experience that's in the courtroom. And that's what people should be talking to us about. What are our respective experiences in the courtroom? Because that's what makes us qualified. That's what makes me best qualified. Thank you.
Good, thank you very much. I just want to say thank you again to everyone who attended today, everyone here watching. Thanks to our partnership with the Chamber on behalf of the News Tribune. We appreciate you, we appreciate everyone here. Speak Your Piece, who was here today as well. As Dan said at the opening, we have 3 more candidate forums tomorrow. They're all legislative races, Western Duluth District, Eastern Duluth District, and then Proctor, Hermantown, the area just outside Duluth there. We will wrap up this forum by offering each of the candidates, let's say 2 minutes, Kathy, to wrap up. I felt like you were kind of maybe cut off or limited a little too much at the beginning, so we'll give you up to 2 minutes for closing. Just a reminder to everyone that Election Day is November 5th. Early voting, as crazy as it may sound, starts this Friday, September 20th. So be sure to vote if you're eligible and do your public duty. Sean Reed, we'll start with you since Gunnar Johnson went first at the beginning. Sean Reed, 2 minutes to kind of wrap up.
Thank you, Chuck, and thank you, Mr. Johnson. As I stated at the beginning of this forum, this is the job interview phase of this election. It's time for voters to get to learn about our specific experiences that qualify us for being the next judge. Now, based upon my 27 years of experience in the courts, I know that courts need judges that are experienced in both criminal and civil matters. I know that courts need judges that are experienced in family law matters. I know that courts need judges that our experience so cases can move along in an expeditious manner. I know that judges, they need judges that can manage people and the relationships in the court along with their justice partners effectively. And most important, we need judges that are going to treat people fairly and with respect and dignity without regard to their background or circumstances. Now, there's one candidate here that meets all of those needs, and I am that candidate. As I stated, I have the criminal law experience, I have the civil law experience, I have family law experience, and I've handled cases from the very commencement through trial and even up to appeal. It's that experience that is so vitally important for our court system to keep things moving along. So I know what the courts need. We need experience. We need Reed. And I'm asking you to vote for me on November 5th, and I certainly look forward to continuing this conversation with you as we move on. You can go to my website, readforjudge.com, if you have more questions, and I look forward to discussing my qualifications with you. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you. Gunnar Johnson.
Yes, thank you. Again, my name is Gunnar Johnson, and I'm running for judge in the 6th Judicial District. My goal is to become a judge, to serve the public, and to bring justice and fairness to our district. And we've kind of rushed through this form, but one of the things I really wanted to touch base on, and I missed it earlier, was some of the things that I've done that have impacted our community. And I don't know if you remember, some people don't, the Last Place on Earth matter that rocked Duluth years ago, in which they were selling drugs in downtown Duluth, and it was causing tremendous problems throughout our community. We at the city attorney's office struggled with this perpetrator, this person that was selling these drugs, trying to figure out a way to address it in a legal manner. The United States Department of Justice, the county attorney's office, the Minnesota Attorney General's office was all struggling with the exact same problem. We tried some things at the city, they didn't work. We went to court, the federal courts knocked us down. We sat and we thought about it, and we tried to figure out a way to use the tools that we had at the city of Duluth to address this problem. And we came out very similar to what they did with Al Capone. They brought him down on tax matters rather than on selling alcohol. And so for the Last Place on Earth, we used our licensing tools to create a scheme that the city council supported, and we were able to start the process of closing down the Last Place on Earth. That's the kind of creativity and hard work that I'm going to bring to the 6th Judicial District as your judge. Thank you.
Thanks again to everyone for your civility, but please join me now in a round of applause to thank our candidates. Thank you both.